Hello everyone, my name is Navin Singh. I'll be taking physics for DMLT and paramedical courses. So in this session, we'll be studying the chapter 6 of physics, that is geometrical optics. So this is part 4 of the video lecture. So already part 1 to 3 of this chapter has been already uploaded. It is there in the playlist, you can watch it. So let us begin with the class. That is the 15th question says, explain Beer and Lambert's law. Explain Beer and Lambert law. Let us discuss Beer and Lambert law. Here, Beer and Lambert law related the attenuation of light. It is related to the attenuation of light to the properties of the material through which the light is traveling. So this is the attenuation. It is related to attenuation of light to the properties of material through which the light is traveling. So, let us consider. Let us understand this Beer and Lambert law. So I'll try the similar diagram of this. Okay, this is the cuvette. Okay, this is the cuvette which is having some solution, and this solution is having particular concentration. Okay, when the light is passed through this solution, or you can say you cuvette with the intensity I naught, and the concentration of this particular solution will absorb some kind of intensity of light, and the remaining intensity of light will be passed out of this, that is I. So let us discuss the Beer and Lambert law. This is cuvette. Same thing. We are drawing the same diagram, and this is the length of the cuvette. This is length of the cuvette. Okay. Let us discuss the Beer and Lambert law. Here the absorbability, or you can say absorbance of this concentration of the solution, it depends on two factors. The first factor of this absorption is it is directly proportional to the concentration of the sample used. Okay, and the next one, it directly proportional to the length of the path travel, which is equal to the width of the cuvette. So we'll write over here. So this is where we'll write the formula of Beer and Lambert law, that is A is equal to epsilon CL. This is the formula of Beer and Lambert law. This is the formula of Beer and Lambert law. Here A is the absorbance of the absorption of the solution. A is absorbance. So you can say absorbance. It has no unit. It has no unit. And the second one is this epsilon. Here epsilon is molar coefficient. It is molar coefficient. It is molar coefficient, that is m to the power of -1 centimeter to the power of -1. E is molar coefficient. C is concentration of the solution, or simply concentration. It is concentration. It is represented by capital M, and I is equal to, sorry, not I, sorry, it is length. Length is equal to L is length, that is path of the length, or you can say path length of the light traveled. So it will be in centimeter. So it depends on two factors. First one is concentration of the solution, and second one is path of the length traveled by the light. So this is the Beer and Lambert law. Let us move to the next concept. Next one, question number 16 says, define calorimeter, explain the working principle and application. So this question, let us discuss this question. The first one we'll discuss about calorimeter. So let us discuss the first one, that is calorimeter. Okay. The first one is calorimeter. Here calorimeter means calorimeter is a device, or basically you can say calorimeter is a light sensitive device used for measuring transmittance and absorbance of light passing through a liquid sample. So basically it is a device which measures the transmittance and absorbance of the light passing through this liquid sample. This calorimeter is based on the principle of, that is based on the principle of Beer and Lambert law. So we should know the Beer and Lambert law. We have already discussed Beer and Lambert law. That is, absorbance is directly proportional to the concentration of the solution, or you can say epsilon CL. So this is absorbance is directly proportional to the concentration of the solution and length of the light traveled through it. This is the Beer and Lambert law. We should know. So we should know this law to understand the calorimeter. Okay, this device measures the intensity or concentration of the color that develops upon the introduction of specific reagent into the solution. Okay, so this is, keep in mind that this is this is Beer and Lambert law. That is, absorbance is directly proportional to the concentration, and second one, it is directly proportional to the length of the light traveled through it. So there are two types of calorimeter. First one is color density densitometer, that is, which measure the density of primary colors. So this color densitometer will measure the density of primary colors, that is red, blue, green. Okay, and the next one is color of photometers. Second type is the first type is color densitometer, and the second type is color photometer, which measure the color reflection and transmission. Okay, so let us see the design of the calorimeter. As you can see here, so this is the setup. This is the setup of calorimeter. So there are three main sources of calorimeter. The first main source is light. Light is the first main source, and second main source is cuvette, and the third main source is photocell, and third main source is photocell. These are the three main sources of calorimeter. Okay, and apart from this, calorimeter might consist of uh, a lens, a series of lens which filter the particular light, and also or also you can it might have some particular LED which will generate particular color of light. So this is the setup. So let us read the setup of this. Yeah, no, here design. You can design or setup, both are same thing. Design of calorimeter. There are three main components of the calorimeter. The first one is light source, and the second one is cuvette containing sample of the solution, and the third one is photocell. The third one is photocell, which will detect the light passing through the solution. Okay, pass through the solution. So these are the three. First one is light source, second one is cuvette, and the third one is photocell, which detect the light pass through the solution. Next one, the instrument is used. The instrument is equipped with either colored filters or a specific LED which will generate a particular color. The output from the calorimeter may be displayed by analog or digital meter in terms of transmittance or absorbance. Okay. In addition, the calorimeter may contain voltage regulator for protecting from the instrumental fluctuation from the fluctuation of main voltage. And some calorimeters are portable and useful for on-site test, while others are largest and bench top instrument which will be useful for laboratory testing. So this is the setup of calorimeter. So let us begin with the working function, the working of this calorimeter. So let us read one by one point of this. Here, calorimeter is based on the Beer and Lambert's law. So we already discussed. This works on the principle of Beer and Lambert law. Again, we'll recall this Beer and Lambert law. That is, absorbance is directly proportional to epsilon LC. A is absorbance, epsilon is nothing but molar absorbability, and L is the path length of the path traveled, and C is the concentration of the solution. So these are the terminology, and this is the formula of Beer and Lambert law. Okay, the calorimeter is based on the Beer and Lambert law, according to which the absorption of light transmitted through the medium is directly proportional to the medium concentration. That is, this it obviously it works on the principle of calorimeter, right? Calorimeter says the absorption is directly proportional to the concentration of solution. If the absorption is directly proportional to the concentration of solution, means if the concentration is more, the absorption will be more. If the concentration of solution is less, the absorption will be less. So this is the meaning of absorption. Absorption is directly proportional to the concentration of the solution. And the next one, and the next point in this is in calorimeter. Okay, uh, you can see this setup. So it is this light source which is emitting a particular source of light. As you can see in this diagram, it is emitting yellow source of light. Okay, and this is emitting yellow source of light. In calorimeter, the beam of light with a specific wavelength is passed through a solution. This beam of light with a specific wavelength is nothing but lambda. A beam of light with a specific wavelength is passed through a solution via series of lenses. So here you can see only one lens is there. So this is the one lens. Okay. Okay, a series of lenses which navigate which navigate the color light, to the measuring device. This analyzes the color compared to the existing standard. So this device, or you can say this analyzes the color compared to the existing standard. Next one, the microprocess then calculate the absorbance or percentage of transmittance. So this there will be microprocess will be set up in the will be there in the setup. So it will calculate the absorbance or percentage of transmittance. Next one, if the concentration of the solution is greater, more amount of light will be absorbed, which can be identified by measuring the difference between amount of light passed to the origin and that was passed to the solution. That means, for example, this is a cuvette which consists of a solution. So the concentration difference can be known by simply the difference in the light, that is input and output light. This is the input light and this is output light. So there will be difference. If the concentration is high, the light coming out of this cuvette will be less concentration. The less intensity. The intensity of light will be reduced if the concentration of this solution is more, right? So by this we can know the amount of light from the origin. This is from the origin and this is from the final, or you can say F or simply I, and that can be passed through the solution. So we can notice, right? For example, it is having a particular intensity. The intensity coming out of this will be less if the concentration of this solution will be more. If it is having this cuvette having high concentration, having high concentration of solution, the intensity of the light will be less. If this cuvette is having low concentration, this light intensity will be more. The light intensity coming out of this will be more. So this is the basic principle. Okay. To determine the concentration of unknown sample, so several sample solution of unknown concentration are first prepared and then tested. Okay. We'll compare to calculate the unknown sample, to concentration of unknown sample. Several samples of known concentration are prepared first and then tested. The result of known concentration are compared with the unknown concentration. That is, unknown concentration sample will be measured with compared with known sample on the curve to measure the concentration. So this is the working principle of calorimeter. So this is source of light and this is a slit which will allow only some part of the light will be passed through it. This is a lens which attenuate the light through this, and this is the filter which will only allow the particular light to pass through it. And this is cuvette. It is having some particular concentrated solution which is to be compared, or you can say which is already there. So this is photocells which absorb the intensity of light, and finally which will be output. The output may be can be measured in terms of the output may be in analog or digital form. So this is the setup of calorimeter. Okay, let us move on to the next one, that is application. Okay, next one is application. That is, the first application of this calorimeter is widely used in monitoring the growth of bacteria or yeast culture. The first application is, it is widely used to monitor. It is used to monitor the growth of bacteria and yeast culture. And second one, they are used to measure and monitor the color of various food and beverages, including vegetable products and sugar. Okay. The next one, they are also used to determine the concentration of plant nutrients such as ammonia and nitrates, phosphorus in soil, and hemoglobin in the blood. And the next one is, calorimeter is also used in color printing, textile manufacturing, and paint manufacturing for the precise quality inspection. So these are the four advantages, or sorry, these are the four applications of calorimeter. First, we'll revise once again. Okay, the calorimeter. The first application of the calorimeter is to monitor the growth of bacteria. It is to monitor the growth of bacteria and yeast culture. And the second one is it is used to measure the monitor. It is used to measure and monitor the various food and beverages, including vegetable oil and sugar. The next one, these are used in the determining the concentration of the plant nutrients such as ammonia, nitrate, phosphorus in soil, hemoglobin in the blood. Next one, the last one, calorimeter is also used for, this calorimeter is also used in color printing. It is also used in color printing, textile manufacturing, and paint manufacturing, and precise quality inspection. So these are the some applications of calorimeter. So this is the complete information about calorimeter. Let us move to the next one, that is spectrometer. Let us discuss the spectrometer. So let us discuss about spectrophotometer. Okay, spectrophotometer. Here, spectrophotometer is an instrument that is used to measure the amount of light absorbed by a sample. See, here it is an instrument. Spectrophotometer is an instrument that measure the amount of light absorbed by the sample. So this is an instrument which measure the amount of light which is absorbed by this sample. That sample is contained in the cuvette. Okay. This spectrophotometer is a technique is mostly used to measure the concentration of the solute. It is used to measure the concentration of solutes in a solution by measuring the amount of light that is absorbed by the solution in a cuvette, which is placed in a spectrophotometer. Okay, this is a technique which is mostly measure the concentration of the solute. This spectrophotometer, this is a technique which will measure the concentration of the solute, and measuring the amount of light can be absorbed by the solution in a cuvette, which is placed in a spectrophotometer. As you can see, this is a setup of spectrophotometer. Here, it is exactly same. It is exactly similar to calorimeter. Only here, there is a difference here over here. That is here, it is prism is used. In the calorimeter, it is prism is not used. Here in spectrophotometer, prism is used. Okay, it is the source of, again there is a three components, major components, that is source of light. Okay, second one is prism, and third one is second one is uh, uh, you can think it as there are four basic things. First one is source of light, second one is prism, third one is cuvette, and fourth one is detector. These are the four components of spectrophotometer. So let us see the application of the spectrophotometer. So not application, working. The working principle of spectrophotometer. Here, spectrophotometer is a technique. It is used to measure the intensity of light as a function of wavelength. Let us see what do you mean. What is the meaning of that? That is, it it does this by diffraction of light. It does this by diffraction. Here, diffraction is nothing but bending of light when the light ray falls on the sharp object. For example, this is a sharp object. When the light ray falls on the sharp object, it will slightly bend from this original path of the light. So bending of the light when the light falls on the sharp object, it is called diffraction. Okay, so let us read once again. It does this by diffraction light beam into a spectrum of wavelength, detecting the intensity with a charged couple device, and display the result as a graph on the detector, and displays the device. So let us see one by one. In a spectrophotometer, a prism, okay, a prism is allowed to split the incident beam into a different wavelength. Here in spectrophotometer, here this is the prism. When the light falls on this, when a monochrome or chromatic light falls on this, it's split into multicolors, that is Vibgyor. This prism will split this white light into its constitutive color, that is Vibgyor, or you can say the dispersion process will happen over here. Here dispersion process will happen over here. Dispersion process will happen over here. That is, dispersion is nothing but splitting a white light into its constitutive color is called dispersion. In first step, the prism will split the white light into its constitutive color. Next one, by suitable mechanism, a wave of specific wavelength can be manipulated to fall on the test solution. That is, here For example, this is the wavelength selector. We'll select here a particular wavelength. Particular, for example, in this diagram, you can see here only we are allowing the yellow color light to pass through this sample solution in cuvette. Okay. So this is the second working principle. The range of wavelength, the range of the wavelength of the incident line can be as low as 1 to 2 nanometer. Here the wavelength can be the wavelength should be between 1 to 2 nanometer. Next one, third one is next one is spectrophotometer is used for measuring the absorbance of spectrum of compound, that is the absorption of light by solution of each wavelength. Here spectrometer is useful for measuring the absorption of spectrum. It is used for the absorption of spectrum, that is absorption of light by a solution of each wavelength. Okay, this is the setup. Okay, these are the main compounds. Source of light, here source of light is attenuated, or you can say concentrated by the lens, and this lens will allow to this beam of light will be allowed to fall on the monochromatic prism. This monochromator or a prism will split into multicolors. This only here the wave selector is there. Here only it will allow the particular wavelength, or you can say particular light, to allow to the next level, that is the particular, as you can see here, yellow light is falling on this sample solution. Here this yellow color light, the intensity is decreasing. So here the initial intensity is more, the intensity here is less. The difference in the intensity can be calculated and it will show the concentration of the solution. Okay, so this is the working principle of spectrophotometer. So let us discuss the applications of spectrophotometer. The first application is detection of concentration of the substance. Here spectrophotometer detects the concentration of substances. The second one, detection of impurities. The second application is detection of impurity, and the third one is elucidation of organic compound, and the fourth one is monitoring the dissolved oxygen, content in a freshwater and marine ecosystem, characterization of protein, detection of functional group, and respiratory gas analysis in the hospital. These are some of the these are some of the applications of spectrophotometer. Let us move on to the next one, that is interference. So let us discuss the interference of light. So let us understand the meaning of interference. So I'll write the definition of interference. First one, definition. The definition of interference is, it is a phenomenon. Interference is a phenomenon. It is a phenomenon in which two waves superimpose, or you can say superpose to form a resultant wave, of greater or lower or same of the same amplitude is called interference of light. Here this interference light can be only explained through the process of, that is we should consider the light as a source of wave. That is, as we have studied earlier, light is having two characteristics. First one is wave nature. It is having two nature. First one is wave nature and second one is particle nature. So this interference is can be explained by wave nature of the light. Okay, if you think it as light as a wave, then only we can understand the interference of light. That is, interference of light can be explained by wave nature of the light. That is, it is a phenomenon in which two waves, observe here, two waves superimpose, that is superimpose to form a resultant resultant wave greater, lesser, or of same amplitude is called interference of light. So again, there are two types of, we'll write constructive and let us understand the constructive and destructive interference. I'll draw the diagram over here. Okay. For constructive interference, I'll draw the diagram over here. That is, when two crust when two crust superimpose when two crusts superimpose, the resultant will give, okay, this is the constructive interference. Suppose if the crust of one wave, this is called crust and this is called trough, and again crust trough. Okay, if suppose the crust of one wave falls on the crust of another wave, the amplitude is maximum. The amplitude, the crust of one wave will superimpose on the crust of another wave, and the resultant will be, the amplitude of resultant will be very high. As you can see here, this is double. For example, this is having a amplitude 1 and this is also having amplitude 1. So 1 plus 1, the resultant will be amplitude of 2. So consider this as 2. So you can understand from this. And trough of another wave, a trough of one wave superimpose on trough of another wave, the resultant will be addition of these two troughs. For example, take this trough as 1 and this trough as 2, sorry 1. So 1 plus 1 will be 2. So this is the resultant. Okay, so this is the constructive interference. When the crust of one wave falls on the crust of another wave, then the amplitude will be maximum. This is called constructive interference. So this process is called constructive interference. Here both waves have same displacement. It has same displacement and the wave are in phase. The wave should be in phase. So this is the explanation of constructive interference. That is, basic thing is one crust should falls on one crust, that is falls on the another crust. It will superimpose, will give the resultant will be addition of these two crust. Okay, next one is destructive crust. Destructive crust. Let us draw the diagram over here. So this is, I'll draw the diagram one more time. Okay. So see, this is the crust. This is crust and this is trough. Okay. This is wave 1. Okay. And this is wave 2. And this is trough and this is crust. As you can see here, in destructive interference, suppose the crust of one wave, this is the crust of one wave, falls on the trough of another wave, the amplitude will be minimum. Here the cancellation process will take place and the resultant wave will be null wave, or you can say there will be no wave, because there will be cancellation of wave. For example, this is having amplitude 1 positive, this will be plus 1, and this trough will be minus 1. So plus 1 minus will be cancelled, right? So destructive interference will take place. Suppose crust, this is the crust of one wave, falls on the trough of another wave. If we add these two, there will be nullification of this wave. That is, crust of one wave falls on the trough of another wave, then the amplitude of the resultant will be minimum, and this process is called destructive interference. Here the waves do not have same displacement and the wave are out of phase. So here waves are out of phase. So this is constructive interference. In constructive interference, the resultant wave will be addition of these two, and in destructive interference, the wave will cancel each other's effect, and the resultant will be null wave, or you can say cancellation of these two waves. So these are the two types of interference. First one is constructive. Second one is destructive. So this is the complete information about interference of the wave. This interference is related to the light as a wave. Only we can understand this is interference. We should think it as light as a wave, not a particle nature. So consider light as a wave, then only we can understand this interference of light. So these are the two wave light. Okay. So this is the information about the interference of light. Let us move on to the next one. That is question number 19.